Ranking the top 10 best movies of 2024 so far. At number 10, we have Kung Fu Panda 4, which kind of shows how mediocre this year has been so far if this is breaking the top 10. Because yes, this movie is a downgrade in a lot of ways from the other films in the Kung Fu Panda franchise, especially those first two movies. It is still very enjoyable and a solid film on its own. Mainly because as long as they keep bringing back Jack Black as Po, these movies are always going to be very enjoyable because he is just still so good as the voice actor of this character and just as funny as ever in this film. I also really enjoyed Viola Davis as the voice of the Chameleon because she keeps up the legacy of having great villains in these Kung Fu Panda movies. I just feel like she didn't get enough screen time to really shine, but the character itself was very cool. And bringing back villains like Tai Lung was also very cool to see because it didn't feel like pointless fan service to me. He actually had a reason to be in the movie and he was very good in his couple scenes. Why this movie's not higher up on the list is because the story is very simple and kind of just shallow compared to the other Kung Fu Panda movies, and things like the Furious 5 not being in this film really hurt it. And then trying to replace the Furious 5 with Awkwafina being the second main character in this film just really didn't work for me, even though I don't think Awkwafina is as unsufferable as she is in some other movies, so overall it's a very decent movie. At number 9 is Godzilla x Kong The New Empire, which I called in a previous video a so bad it's good movie because it's just so stupid and insane, but I still had a blast with it, and some reason people are tearing me apart because I didn't call this a cinematic masterpiece. I stand by what I said. This is so stupid. The movie knows exactly how silly it is, which lets you just get into this world for 2 hours and escape and just watch some mindless action, and honestly that's enough sometimes. Scar King as a villain was literally just absolute comedy. He was just a walking meme half the movie. And then you have King Kong swinging Baby Kong around like he's a mace, and people are trying to tell me this movie's not a comedy. I'm sorry, it's hilarious. At number 8, I have Love Lies Bleeding, which is this absolutely chaotic love story between these two characters that are falling for each other, but they get pulled into this world of just absolute violence and crime, and they have to deal with that too. Kristen Stewart and Katie O'Brien in this movie are absolutely incredible, and their chemistry together is just as great. This is definitely not a movie that everybody's gonna like or appreciate, but there's definitely gonna be a cult following for this in a couple years, and I had a really good time at the theaters with it. At number 7, I have Lisa Frankenstein, which is one of the biggest surprises for me of the year so far. It stars Kathryn Newton as Lisa and Cole Sprouse as this kind of Frankenstein zombie that comes back from the dead. Lisa's kind of your typical outcast. She doesn't fit in high school and she's kind of a loner, but then she ends up befriending Cole Sprouse's zombie that comes back from the dead, and the two are kind of falling in love and going on this quest to get him body parts to make him more human again. It's a really fun and quirky movie, and Kathryn Newton is just so incredible and charming as the lead role in this film, and I also really dig all the 1980 vibes that this film has because it's all the neon lighting and the soundtrack is great. If you like the classic movie Heathers from the 80s, you're gonna absolutely love this movie. At number 6, I have the movie The Fall Guy with Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt. This movie is an absolute blast. These two are so good in it. If you don't know what it's about, Ryan Gosling is this stunt guy who has a very bad accident on set one day, but then after a little bit of time he gets a call that gives him an offer to go work on a movie that Emily Blunt's character is directing, and since he's in love with her, he goes to work on the movie to try to win her back. Then he finds out he's kind of over his head because he wasn't just brought back to be a stunt guy on a set, he actually gets pulled into this way bigger mystery revolving one of the actors, and it's a very good time. Mostly because Ryan Gosling is just so absolutely hilarious in this role. Like, he's a master at both the physical comedy in this movie and also just his line delivery is so good. It really reminds me a lot of his role in The Nice Guys. It's that same kind of super goofy humor, but it just works. This movie is a love letter to stuntmen as well, which I really appreciated because the stunts in this film are actually super entertaining. There's lots of really good car chases and fight scenes, and I'm normally someone that gets pretty bored with action pretty fast, but this one kept me entertained the entire time. I'm very upset that this movie has been underperforming and flopping at the box office because I really want to see more films like this, especially from Ryan Gosling because he's so good in these roles. I also gotta give credit to Aaron Taylor Johnson because he plays this just absolutely sleazy and douchey actor in the movie, but he is so good at it. It literally feels like a performance ripped straight out of a cartoon. At number 5 is Dev Patel's directorial debut that he also stars in, Monkey Man. I absolutely had a blast with this because the action is just so insane. If you like pure action films, this is for you. This is one of those classic revenge tales where Dev Patel is just on a mission and nothing is going to get in his way, but Dev Patel also brings a very interesting perspective to this because he is an Indian actor himself and he brings a lot of that culture into this film. It really helps the film feel very unique and brings a new perspective to it because we're seeing a lot of these kind of like John Wick clone movies in the last couple of years, and this definitely could fall into that category, but like I said, it stands on its own because of his unique perspective he brings to it. Now, with all that praise, I don't want to overstate this because I do think there are some problems with some of the pacing and just some of the moments in the middle of the movie. You can definitely tell that it's his first ever time directing a movie because there's just some things in the story that I feel like could have been cleaned up a little bit, but for a first attempt at directing a film, it was incredible, and I can't wait to see what he does in the future with this type of action style. He's going to be an insane director in a couple years. At number 4 is another almost pure action movie. It's Furiosa, a Mad Max saga starring Anya Taylor-Joy and Chris Hemsworth, and those two are easily the best part of this movie. Their performances are seriously some of the best of the entire year, which is really impressive when you consider that Anya Taylor-Joy playing Furiosa in this movie barely has any dialogue, but just her acting with her facial expressions and the look she gives are so impressive. Like I said, she doesn't have a lot of dialogue, but the line she does have, the delivery is so good, and especially towards the end of the movie, it gets almost bone-chilling, because she's playing the character Furiosa that was previously played by Charlize Theron, and she sounds exactly like her towards the end of this film. It's honestly uncanny. Chris Hemsworth as Dementis in this movie is also just a blast. Like, he's doing this carnival announcer type of voice the entire time, which is just insane. Especially the moments between him and a little kid Furiosa towards the beginning of the film, and then him with adult Furiosa. Like, the dynamic between those two as the protagonist and villain is just so strong in this entire movie, and it's the entire thread of the film. And of course, with any Mad Max film, the action is absolutely insane. I actually think this has some better action sequences than Mad Max Fury Road. Sadly, it's not all positive. I feel like this movie heavily suffers from pacing issues that really slow down the film and take you out of those amazing action sequences, which is what I come to a Mad Max movie for. And listen, I'm all for world building and getting more character development, but this movie just doesn't do it very well in my opinion, and it's just paced very weirdly. Like, we spend an hour of this 2.5 hour movie with little kid Furiosa, so we don't even get to see Anya Taylor-Joy for the first hour. But then there's moments later in the film that we just completely skip over. Like, there's a 40-day war in this movie that we cover in 1 minute of a montage. I would have much preferred spending like 30 minutes covering that war than an hour of Furiosa's childhood. And while there are some amazing looking shots in this movie, overall I think it looks way visually worse than Mad Max Fury Road. Mad Max Fury Road had a very unique look and feel because of the color grading in that movie, and this movie kind of abandons that, and it feels a lot more generic looking in my opinion, and some of the CGI is also terrible. At number 3 is the worst movie of the year to watch with your parents, Challengers. This is a career best effort from Zendaya in my opinion, and I can't lie, I'm a sucker for watching absolutely terrible people just interact with each other, and that's pretty much what this movie is with this kind of love triangle we got going on. The tension is so real the entire film. I need to give a lot of credit to the cinematography of this movie because it looks absolutely gorgeous in pretty much every shot, especially some of the tennis match sequences where we're like POV shots were on the tennis ball going back and forth over the net. I just thought those were so cool. At number 2 is another huge surprise for me. I was not expecting to love this movie so much, but it's Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. I thought this was an amazing new take on the story because I love our new main characters, how they're not trying to replace Caesar. Instead, the movie is just respecting Caesar's legacy and showing how our new characters interact with it. Like, we have Noah, who is just this completely different type of protagonist. Then you have Raka, who's this orangutan on the left that's kind of preaching what Caesar actually stood for and what he wanted between apes, which is a direct counter to the villain Proximus Caesar, who is the one twisting everything Caesar stood for and using it for his own personal gain and having apes hurt each other. Literally one of the best villain performances of the last couple of years. This dude is absolutely menacing every time he's on screen. Every line delivery is so good, especially the What a Wonderful Day. Freya Allan plays the human character May in this movie, and I love the dynamic she brings to this group with the other apes, because obviously she would still prefer if humans were the dominant species, or at least had more of a role in the society. But then the apes are kind of treating her like humans used to treat apes, because obviously they've been oppressed for years. While the characters have to work towards the same goal, the tension is there throughout the entire movie, and I really liked it. And this is a movie that does a really good job at world building. It takes its time slowly introducing new characters and new parts of this world as we learn about it with our main character Noah, and it was just so well done, and the movie also looks absolutely gorgeous. Let me know in the comments what your number 1 movie of the year is, and follow me on Letterboxd. It's at Vets Movies, or the link is in the description below. But my number 1 is easily Dune Part 2. This is just a complete masterpiece and my only 10 out of 10 star film of the year so far. This movie is bigger, bolder, and stranger than the first Dune movie in all the best ways possible. It is an absolute masterpiece of storytelling, and I just love this unique look on how power corrupts all. Timothée Chalamet as Paul Atreides definitely deserves a Best Actor nomination at the Oscars next year. He is so good. The way he transforms in this character from the beginning to the end of the movie is just a masterclass. Rebecca Ferguson as Lady Jessica is just so unhinged and honestly terrifying in this movie, but I love her in every single scene. Austin Butler completely transformed himself to play Feyd-Rautha. Like, he is unrecognizable, but just so amazing in his limited screen time in this film. It looks absolutely gorgeous. It's probably the best original soundtrack in the last couple years. It is just an absolute masterpiece, 10 out of 10.